Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Internal Hackathons, Rethink AC Brings It Home, which is all about Alameda County employees saving $500,000. Our host today is Chris Metcalf, and he will be joined by Tim Dupuis, CIO of Alameda County. Again, thank you all for joining us today. Let's get started. Chris?
Thank you very much. Tim's going to talk about a model of hackathons that I think doesn't get nearly enough attention. In a previous lifetime when I worked at Amazon, we actually used internal hackathons just like they did to really inspire people to try new things. And I'm really excited to see governments taking on that model as well. So Tim, I'm going to let you get started, and we'll do questions at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Again, this is Tim Dupuis, and I'm the Chief Information Officer for Alameda County. We got started with hackathons a little while ago when our board challenged us to get involved in the Open Data and Gov 2.0 initiatives that were coming out of the White House and the new president's initiatives. But for today, what I thought, I'd take a step back. I know everybody wants to hear how we saved $500,000 with internal hackathons, but I think we need to lay some foundation for where Alameda County came from in order to get there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where Alameda County is and the demographics just to put some context. I'm going to give some background on our data sharing initiative, where the board's direction came from and how it grew to where we are today. And then I'll talk about a little bit more of what everybody wants to hear about, which is Rethink AC, which is what we have branded our internal hackathon. And hopefully by then we've gone through our 30 minutes and we'll have some time for questions and answers. I also have a guest here with me, Kimberly Gassaway, who works for our General Services Agency, and she participated on one of the teams at the internal hackathon. So I thought it'd be helpful to hear from a participant. Kimberly has been definitely involved in a lot of areas beyond her core responsibilities and has come up with many ideas that I think would be certainly important to share with everybody. So going on to who is Alameda County? We're a Northern California county. We're one of 9 counties that make up the San Francisco Bay Area. We're the 7th most populous county in California with 1.7 million residents. One of the other hats that I wear, which is a little unique to Alameda County, is I'm also the Registrar of Voters for the county, and the county has over 800,000 registered voters as well. We have 14 cities in the county and 6 unincorporated areas. Where I am today is in Oakland. That's where our county seat is. We cover an area of 743 square miles. It's a very diverse geography. We have waterfront on the bay. Going to the east, we have vineyards in the Livermore Valley, and we boast one of the oldest wineries in the country in that area. As of the last census, there are 57 languages spoken in the county, and looking at the county budget, we just adopted a $2.7 billion budget for next year. So our data sharing initiative, back in 2011, the Board of Supervisors really was getting wind of the community's interest in not just what we could provide on the county website, but this whole idea behind making the raw and intelligent data available to the community so that they could do what they needed to. Alameda County is right on the edge of the heart of Silicon Valley. We have a very tech-savvy community. We have community activists around technology that are constantly talking to our board. In fact, this morning I was speaking with one of the groups before coming to this meeting, but they have a very strong interest in using their technology skills to look at the data to see how they can improve the community. And our board really wanted us to do something to meet that need. So the Board of Supervisors talks to the county administrator talks to me, and we try to make that policy into reality. And in 2012, as we were coming out of the direction of the board, we went through an analysis of how we could share that data, and we discovered Socrata, and we saw that we felt that they were a solid platform for us to use for sharing the data, that we saw a number of organizations that were our peers that were using it, both locally and throughout the nation. And we tilted up our data.acgov.org website on the Socrata platform. Since then, we have now gone through a new update, and we're using the new look and feel of Socrata's portal. It's a welcomed upgrade from where we started. And we are also working with Socrata on some more detailed visualization around our budget. So we've certainly matured in the space of sharing data and partnered strongly with Socrata through that effort. While we were going through this open data discovery, we created a committee. We got everybody together with key decision makers from each and every department. They were given direction that they were going to share any of the data that wasn't private and protected and appropriate for the public. But then our county administrator, who's always thinking of new and challenging ideas for us, felt that the data could be exposed even better if we were to get on board with hackathons and put something together. So again, a new challenge for us. We went out and attended many hackathons to try and figure out what flavor was going to be appropriate for us. Many of the hackathons that we went to were multi-day, overnight marathons, and we didn't feel that that approach was going to work for us in our community. We didn't see the end product being any better than something that was maybe a little bit more structured around a day. So we took all of the things that we saw, and we created a format that could be implemented on a weekend, on a Saturday, starting at about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning with a breakfast, and concluding around 5:30, 6 p.m. in the evening. And we've been very happy with the success of those hackathons. In 2013, after putting on a couple of these and seeing what kind of success we had, we were again challenged by our county administrator to say, well, if it's good for the public, and as Chris said, why don't we look at what private industry has been doing and turn to our internal our employees? They got fantastic ideas. Why don't we create a format for a hackathon that would be appropriate for them and see what they can come up with that will help out? So to date, to pat ourselves on the back, we have been recognized by several organizations and given awards around the work that we've done. The California State Association of Counties gave us a merit award for the work that we did around data sharing in 2013. Digital Government gave us a Digital Government Achievement Award for driving digital government in county government. Silicon Valley Leadership Group recognized us for innovation and technology. The National Association of Counties just recently awarded us an achievement award around the data sharing initiative, and we're very proud of the article that Socrata put together about us in their innovation magazine, calling us the gold standard. So we really have enjoyed that branding. So talk a bit about the external apps challenges. We to date have had 3 events, one in 2012, one in 2013, and one recently in 2014. I want to stress that because it's a smaller time frame than these weekend marathons, we do say that we'd like to see a mobile app or website developed on the spot, but we won't limit it to that. We really also tell everybody that the development of the app and the concept are equally important. So you can have developers who want to code, but the concept itself is golden. We need those killer ideas. and we want the idea to benefit the Alameda County residents, our businesses, or visitors. We do challenge them to use at least one data set from Alameda County's open data or to create their own. We're continuing to try to promote the feeding of our open data. So to date, each of these events keeps growing in interest. Our first one in 2012 at the Castro Valley Library, we had 120 people attend, 20 teams were formed, and the result was 6 working apps. Our Berkeley High School event in 2013 had 150 people, and 24 teams were formed with 3 working apps. And then finally, our Dublin High School event was our biggest crowd at 170 people. And surprisingly, it also had one of our largest youth representations with over 50% of the participants being youth, with one as young as 8 years old who actually stood up and spoke and presented. It was really phenomenal. We had 18 teams present, and we had 5 winning ideas from that event. But what we're really here to talk about is the internal hackathon. So what I said in the previous slide was, in our external hackathons, we learned that coding is important, but that killer idea is the key as well. And that was the thought we went forward with our internal hackathons. We wanted to stress the idea and how do we create a format that somebody doesn't have to be entirely technical around, but still have this idea that it's a technical event. What we found is that people are using smartphones and tablets and iPads. They have the whole concept of how that works and how the icons look and what the splash screens look like. So we stress, can they create a story around what an app would do to meet the need of that killer idea they've come up with. So we say through collaboration, innovation, entrepreneurship, and technology, they need to come up with an idea that's going to improve the operational efficiency, increase revenue generation, reduce the county's carbon footprint, and or enhance customer experience. By the end of the day, after a whole session of team building and collaboration and forming, they'll come out of that hard work that they've put together with a 3-minute presentation. It can be skits, storyboards, videos. We didn't put on here. It can be musicals. We had some people write music and sing. They can use PowerPoint, easels, mobile devices, wearable technologies, anything we could think of giving them to get their concept across and make it as interactive as possible. In the end, we were looking for something that was going to really make a difference. So that was the concept. The devil is in the details. I guess that's the message I do want to get across, is that these things all take on a life of their own, and they are challenging to put together. There is quite a bit of work to make this successful. So I'm going to go through a few of the key things that we learned in the first one and from our external hackathons. First of all, logistics is unbelievably important. You cannot pay enough attention to the logistics. Starting with, and hopefully you can see my arrow, this is where our next event is going to be. It's at our Office of Emergency Services, but you need to find the venue, and you need to understand whether or not there are issues around that venue that need to be dealt with. In the case of our next one that's coming up in a couple weeks, the Emergency Operations Center is at the far eastern part of our county, not in the county seat, so we're going to have to deal with transportation, for example. And we'll be holding it on a Friday, so we're getting some pushback about a long day ending past 5 o'clock on a Friday and how that's impacting whether people want to participate or not. So certainly the venue is an important piece of logistics and the challenges it creates. The date is important. Finding a date that's not on a holiday actually is more challenging than you might think. There are a large number of holidays and events, especially in a highly diverse community as ours, and it never fails. We end up picking a date that we think is free and clear, and there is something happening on that date for one portion of our community. So the date is an important thing. How you sign people up and track people is another. We're using Eventbrite. There's no charge for it because the tickets are free, but we are trying to get a good representation of all of our departments to make sure everybody gets a chance. So key learning from the last time is we've decided that there's a certain quota that we're going to give each department to make sure that nobody rushes in and takes up all of the tickets. So we had some departments who were more enthusiastic last time, and they may have gotten 15 tickets where another department may have only gotten 1. So this time we're trying to even the playing field and give more of the departments a chance. Also have to stress is you cannot do it alone. We had to find representatives from each of the departments who could be advocates for this. Just simply sending out an email saying that the event is coming isn't going to work. You need people that are familiar with their organization and what the lines of communication are, and I'm circling, this is our committee, and they get together regularly to say what is it that they need in order to get the word out. You need to come up with a branding. We came up with Rethink. This seems to have stuck, Rethink AC. We've trademarked this as well, so it's throughout all of our marketing material, our posters, and everything else. Figuring out what supplies are going to be needed. You can see this table has every type of sticky and marker and anything you can think of for people to be creative. I think we even had glitter, and I have no idea what else we had, but anything to get people into more of a festive, collaborative mood and give them the tools they need to get their idea across. The way that the venue is laid out is important. One of the things that we learned is having a main area for presenting is one thing, but people want to gather into more intimate spaces and be able to talk and get their ideas across, but then they also want to have this sense that there's some time pressure and competition, friendly competition going on. So you want to create spaces that they can see other teams, but they can also have their space as well. But again, this is all treating this, and I'm going to take it from the IT perspective, as a project where we're dealing with scope, schedule, and budget. Being the analytics that we are, we attack it from that standpoint. One piece I also cannot stress enough is, again, you're trying to create this sense of celebration, this sense of friendly competition. You wouldn't have that without something of a prize. And in our case, that becomes a challenge as well, trying to figure out how you come up with prizes that are meaningful but are not gifts of public funds. So you've got to be creative in the way that you go about that. We have a couple prizes that are kind of unique that seem to get a lot of play. There's our sheriff is, well, I'll go into that in another slide. So that's all of the logistics. In terms of marketing, I can't, again, stress enough marketing. This is something that IT people don't necessarily in a traditional government setting need to tackle, but marketing is an unbelievably important aspect of making this event a success. You can see it right here. We have our 2013 Rethink website. This was our original website. It's a website that stands on its own for people to get to. We have a part of our community that's active on Yammer, so getting Yammer out there, getting our Yammer blasts and marketing out is important. I mentioned our department reps. I can't, again, emphasize enough how important the department reps are and keeping in contact with them. They create their own sense of friendly competition to see who can recruit the most people at the earliest stages of the game. Showing that we have a commitment from our county leadership is important. So getting a memo out to department heads from the county administrator saying it's okay for you to release some people to go to this event and have them do something different than their normal day-to-day activity. that it's an initiative that's important both to the CAO and the board. We use a whole county announcement system where we can send out email blasts, and we theme those as well to direct everybody back to the website. One thing that was important to our county administrator is that we just don't randomly allow anybody to come into it, that there's also some level of management approval as well. So we, through the whole chain, from the announcement through the website, we're emphasizing that there also has to be supervisor or department head approval for the people who are going to be representing the departments at the hackathon. We created a forum ahead of time to have people start sharing their ideas online to get feedback so that people aren't just coming cold into an event, that they've actually shared and they start to try to do their team formation even before we get to the event. We have a newsletter called the County Courier that goes out internally. We have our public information officer write a nice write-up on it, trying to build that anticipation for the event. We have several different posters that we've given out and are posted throughout the county. As I go through our county buildings these days, I can see all the different flavors of our posters and flyers posted on walls all over the place. And we learn and think and try to rebrand as we go along, and this picture down in the bottom is this year's Rethink website and the way that it looks. So we're trying to keep it fresh and renewed and keep that energy going. So as I said earlier, it's all about the idea for us. It's what is that killer idea that we haven't thought of? You know, what we're trying to do is get people to step away from their traditional lines of business, their chain of command where they might feel that their ideas are getting squelched. One of the things I always hear is there's these ideas that the department heads or leadership wouldn't think of even implementing their idea because they're against certain aspects of automation. Well, this whole event is to try to get your free thinkers away from that kind of hierarchy and let them know that it's okay to free think and explore these ideas, and that we have our county leadership there at the end as they're presenting. So I think the event creates that kind of fun atmosphere, that friendly competition that I was talking about, and gives us a sense that we don't have to have those barriers there anymore and that the leadership is listening. So that's what this is all about. One of the favorite quotes of one of our posters is "say no to the status quo," and I think that really resonates with the approach that we take. So the day, it's important to have it outlined well. We have to have a good structure to the day. I don't want to dwell on our agenda, but we do time it out from 8:30 all the way through 5:15, and I've got people keeping us on the ball on that. I talked about prizes. That's important. In this next hackathon, we've added a category for entrepreneurship, but best of the best, innovation, collaboration meaning that you've gone beyond your just department team making, that you have several departments participating on a team. Green is important to us, technology, and we have theme prizes. So we've got gift cards that department heads have donated. Our sheriff is donating a Recruit for the Day event for the winning team. Our fire chief is donating a dinner at a firehouse or a ride-along on an engine. Believe it or not, those are really fun events and people really want to go to them. And then we also raffle off some of the prizes just so that even if you're not on a winning team, you might have a chance of getting something. I'm not going to really dwell too much on all of the winning apps from the last event, but these are our teams that won. As you can see, they're all enjoying themselves with their awards. One of the winning apps, just want to point this one out. If you take a look at the screen, it was called the ACE for Me. It was a calendar app. This was their concept. We worked with that team to make it reality. This is now what the working app looks like. This was one of our first working apps coming out of the event. AlcoPay, this is the one that's gotten the attention for the title of the presentation. The idea was to automate our invoicing process. The process was all manual. We have 9,000 employees in Alameda County, so there's a lot of purchasing that goes on, and all of that was being done just with paper process. So the team outlined an approach, and this again is where there were these barriers where they felt that the organization wasn't going to be open to automation. We had the auditor controller there. We had purchasing in the audience. They all heard this. Those barriers were broken down. And within a very short period of time, because those barriers were broken down, we were able to automate the process, saving on paper, saving on scanning. Our hard dollar savings, when you look at all of the storage and retention and paper and scanning services, was a savings of $500,000 of hard dollar savings. And we reduced the verification process by 80%. So truly a success story. It goes way beyond the idea. It also speaks to the collaboration that the environment created and the opportunity to get the idea across to leadership. These are just a few more. We had an app around Medi-Cal reporting that's now live, and we are also working on an electronic vendor payment app. So I want to leave enough time for Kimberly, our guest as well. Kimberly came from one of the teams, and I'm just going to let her tell her story on what she experienced at the event.
Thank you, Tim. This is Kimberly, and I'm really excited to be here today and always excited to participate in Alameda County's unique and fun events and their commitment to engaging employees. So the three things that I got from participating in the event was belief and a strong commitment from this organization to creative thinking and believing that that would continue and bleed on. I also got lasting relationships that built my community outside of my department. I work in the General Services Agency. You see pictures up there of our team. We had members from the Sheriff's Department, the CAO's office, the Public Works Department, and I don't want to leave anybody out, and the Auditor Controller Department, which was significant. And that community is still built. These people, I still engage with them and talk to them ever since last year's participation. It also increases employee engagement with a commitment to be a part of this county beyond just your daily work and to getting to know each other more. So those were the three primary things. When I talk about creative energy and ongoing beyond the day, our team was named the Why Nots. You see us up there. The Auditor Controller, Carol Gloria, she's in the bottom right picture. She was our team leader, and she came up with the idea of an app where employee reimbursements could be done on your mobile phone. That was quite an idea. You know, the auditors in any organization are strong commitment to paper, primarily for fiscal control purposes. And so to have their department come up with something where we could scan receipts and get our money in the bank, you know, quickly automated, I dropped a different team I was on and said, absolutely, I went on that team. And since that time, while our app didn't win, she did afterwards called me up and said, I want to change it from a Word document format where these forms have to get resubmitted because people aren't doing the math right. It seems simple, but just taking the time out, she changed it to an Excel format, had us test it, and so now the claims are moved forward quicker, people get paid faster, and with less frustration, which is really important when you're waiting to get your money. In addition to that, for increasing camaraderie and relationships, Carol called me slightly after that also on another idea. She's working with the ITD department, Tim's department, on electronic funds transfer. We do that in one way in our department through PG&E processing, and she wants to take this automated invoice paying to the next level with electronic funds transfer. And she asked if we would test that. And I think being on the team together builds that relationship where she'll quickly call me and say, hey, I know you'll support my idea and help test it because you danced around on the stage with me. So I said, absolutely, we'd love to do that, and we'll make time. Again, it promotes belief and community and a commitment to being engaged. And that leads me to my last example, where another team member who's in this picture, I won't name him so his boss doesn't know, but he sent me an instant messaging on the county's link and said, hey, I saw a job opportunity in your department. Can you tell me a little about that? And while we don't promote stealing employees, it is important to look at ways of retaining employees and being committed to their ongoing career development. There's some committees being developed around that. And so to have somebody say, hey, I saw a job, and he can make a personal reach out to somebody he was on a team. So it's beyond just developing apps and coming up with new technology. We get to know each other and support each other in our ongoing careers. So in closing, I think the internal hackathons remind us that occasionally spending a day brainstorming concepts with others produces significant measurable outcomes that not only technology and process improvement, but increased community engagement. And Forbes magazine put out a great article on public agencies that are doing this really well and private agencies. So you want engaged employees that believe they can think beyond their daily tasks. And with that, I'm looking forward to the next one, which is coming up soon. And I appreciate participating with Tim and his staff who've been promoting these ideas in open gut. Thank you.
Thanks, Kimberly. So I think she brings up a very important aspect. We've found that there's a tremendous byproduct from the event that goes way beyond just the event, and that really is this sense of collaboration and sense of community that it creates, the new friendships that are created, which really then help us to do our business that much better. In today's age, where we are doing everything through email and texting, an event like this gives us a chance to put the human face on it and really build beyond what the static hierarchy really promotes. And I think that brings me to the end. I do have a white paper that we've put together. We put it together a few years ago, or a couple of years ago when we first got started. We decided that we were taking on something that we had better document, otherwise we aren't going to be able to figure out how to do it over again. So that we do have a white paper which really outlined the approach we took for our first hackathon, and my team has used it as the Bible for putting everything else together. They've adapted it for the different events that we put on, but it really has the kind of the heart and soul of what made things happen for us. So you can find that out on our website. I think we're going to be making the PowerPoint presentation available to everybody, so you might take a look at that. I think there might be some links in there that you could click on that might work and take you to some videos that will show you some of the things that have gone on, so you might want to explore that as well. So I want to thank you all for listening to us, and I guess I'm going to hand back over to Chris and whatever kind of questions and answers we might have for the rest of the call.
Great. Well, we actually did have a couple good questions come in. The first one from Nikki. Nikki wants to know, how did you go through the process of deciding on an internal hackathon versus something like an idea scale where you could just come up with ideas and collaborate on them?
Well, we saw in the external hackathons the energy that was created, and that created a sense of being able to build something and present something that friendly. We like to call it the friendly competition. So creating an event where there was that time element to it, the friendly competition, call it some gamification of the idea generation, really seemed to create a venue and an event that was conducive to coming up with unique ideas. When we saw what was being done externally and that energy that we were creating within the community that we serve, bringing it back into internal just seemed like a natural. Of course, it was our county administrator who directed us to do it, and we sort of groaned when she comes up with these great ideas, but we know that they're going to be good ideas. And I would say, and maybe Kimberly can chime in on this, the level of energy that we saw in our internal hackathon dwarfed what we were seeing in our external hackathons. The external hackathons had a lot of energy, but it was unbelievable the amount of engagement that we saw in energy. Wouldn't you say, Kimberly?
I think knowing that you were competing with people who you knew from other departments added to this positive peer pressure and we want to win mentality. I mean, the members of the Sheriff's Department, we wanted to beat their team, and there were other teams in the technology department. So you get to see these people in meetings, so this healthy competition with people you know really drove the energy up very high.
That's awesome. What would you say was the biggest difference between running an external hackathon and running an internal hackathon?
The level of marketing is different internally. Externally, we have to take a look at all of the different community events that we can go to and find people that we don't know to try to get them to come to this. And in terms of our external hackathons, I showed you that there were 3 different venues. We're actually moving the hackathon for our external hackathons through our county board districts. So each board district, each board member in their district has a hackathon, and that adds a whole political element that we have to deal with as well. So finding a venue that's appropriate in each of the districts, and then how do we reach out to that unique community to get their attention, because they're so different in location. They don't tend to be the same people that we see in the previous hackathon. So it's a whole new population that we have to reach out to. In the case of the county, we know who our constituents are who could potentially attend. We want to find those people who are going to really make the event a strong event and are really engaged in it. So how do we get them to learn that it's okay for them to ask their boss if they can attend? How do they get out of their shell and to get the courage to ask for this and to do this and get the approvals needed? We have very dedicated employees. They want to get their job done, and many times we think, how can we step away from our job for one day, just one day, and do something like this, and will it be okay, or will it be something that's bad for my career? And that's what we have to try to get them over. So that whole marketing and getting them to feel comfortable with coming to the event and coming to something that's maybe outside of their comfort zone.
One more specific question. How do you get everyone to agree on a standard for ALCO pay?
Well, we took the idea, and then we certainly work with the team that comes up with the idea. You know, we want to try to stay pure to the concept that they came up with. And then really we were able to work with leadership to get the right people to the table, and we treat it like an IT project. We take a look at the requirements. We go through user interface development. It becomes just a regular project. The key to it, though, is that leadership has seen it, the county administrator has seen it, the county controller has seen it, and they are giving their endorsement. You wouldn't believe what kind of a barrier that breaks down when you have people at the table that can't use the excuse, but my department head will not let me do this. When the department head in a public forum has said, we are going to do this and we are going to get it done within the next 6 months, it's a motivator.
Great. One last question from me, this one's just because I'm curious. Like, what is the most valuable lesson that you learned in the process of organizing this that you'll take forward to doing more of these events?
I think the most valuable lesson I take from it is don't underestimate the power of the crowd and the employees that you work with. I mean, getting people to feel comfortable sharing their ideas in an environment that doesn't really squelch the voice of each of the individuals, allows everybody to speak. It is a bit of a playful environment. I know Kimberly might be able to speak to this. I think that there was a certain amount of piracy going on and trying to take over teams, and didn't you experience that?
Yes, we had, our project originally was from the internal employee reimbursements, and they sent us a team member who wasn't originally on the team, and he was from the Sheriff's Department, was doing a hostile takeover of our team. He wanted it to be more external to the community reimbursements as opposed to employees because he wanted to win. And so it was a lot of fun just working through that and debating, but the assistant controller who led our team, she came in with a lot of data and prepared to make this a reality. She was committed to that, so we eventually moved back. But we came up with the jingle, and we danced and sang because we wanted to win. And so I think Tim said something that having people engage and believing that, you know what, you can have a good time, and the crowdsourcing in a real environment where we all have some really good ideas, and how can we make them a reality? And then at the end, knowing that our bosses are going to stand up and watch us through these crazy presentations. I was also very amazed at the ideas that everyone came up with. I think most of us sit at our desks and we have these ideas, but even in leadership, having the time to just stop everything you're doing and commit to making them a reality in a fun way. The fun really, I think, promotes the silliness. You can't underestimate how important that is, because then you'll say whatever because you're in a more free environment. So I don't know if I fully answered your question, but I think the playfulness, the fun, the competition's huge.
And in the end, and in the end, that creates that sense of camaraderie that I think gets carried forward for the remainder of the year and probably the rest of the people's career that are here. I mean, I to this day still hear people tell me what an impactful event that one day was for them.
Right. I see people around, they go, hey, teammate, you know, and it's been almost a year, whether I'm engaging with them now or not. So it did build those relationships that we can reach out to each other.
Very cool. That's awesome. We actually had one more question sneak in from John. John asks, what if your org already is an app development group? How do you handle apps and suggestions for apps coming in outside of the normal process, the structure of the event?
So after the event, you mean?
I'm not positive exactly what he's looking for, but basically, if you have a team that already is building apps like this, and they have, you know, maybe an app that they're coming in that they want to work with, or they have ideas that they come in, how do you get those development teams input on what gets worked on during the event?
Okay, so I'm going to take it a couple different directions. So let's say ideas that have come up in the event, how do we carry them forward? There were several ideas that resonated that maybe did not win awards, but they, for whatever reason, they resonated with the department head and the leadership. We have a very good leadership team, my peers, as we report up to the board and the county administrator. We meet regularly, and I'd say that some of those ideas had some energy behind them, though they didn't win awards, but it was engaging enough with that department head that they approached me and said they'd want to make that a reality and that they wanted to sponsor that idea. And I think that's a key, that we have leadership sponsoring these ideas. So again, breaks down those barriers. So that's one of the non-traditional ways that the ideas came to us. It's really important to me that we don't just take on a project because IT thinks it's a good idea. We really need to see the leadership behind it, embrace it, have that excitement around it, which is really going to bring us through the whole development life cycle, which for those of us that are developers know that you get to the doldrums of the details, trying to keep the energy around that project is important, and the end marketing is really important as well. So being able to have that leadership sponsorship is very critical. As far as ideas that come to us outside of this, you know, we, again, throughout the year have our own traditional ways of reaching out to leadership. IT has account managers that are also running development teams that get familiar with the lines of business. I meet regularly with each of the departments to have a quarterly update of what we're doing for them. And we have other venues for showing new technologies and brainstorming. So we hit it from many fronts. This isn't the only solution for getting ideas out there. What I like about this solution is, or this approach, is it just really breaks down your traditional barriers and allows for free-form thinking.
Wonderful, thank you. And with that, I think we're going to wrap things up. I want to thank you guys from the Alameda team for coming and talking about your internal hackathons and about your hackathon strategy in general. I'm going to thank the attendees as well, for joining us. And we'll be sending out a link to the slide deck and some additional resources within about 48 hours, so you can share it with your colleagues and spread the good word about what you guys have been working on. Thank you.
All right, and I want to thank everybody, including the Socrata team, for their support. So if anybody wants to follow up with us after this, they're more than welcome to. Thank you very much.